Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Kirk Waldfogel. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You betcha. I'm grateful to have you here today. We're going to talk about partnering with skilled experts to grow your business. And this is a fabulous topic that I know you're going to help us with, because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially ones getting going the first several years, one of the biggest things I hear is that letting go factor and bringing people on that can help grow your business. And it's the biggest thing to scale your business that you need to be able to do is stop doing everything for yourself and let other people who are experts in the different bits do it. But before we go there, share a little bit about your business, Model Match.
So Model Match, we are recruiters in mortgage and financial services primarily. But beyond that, we actually, my background is technology. And so just beyond recruiting, we actually implemented and I've designed and built what we call a TMS, or a talent management system, to effectively manage the recruiting or headhunting efforts inside those industries. And so by putting human skill set together with technologies, we're able to manage efficiencies and tracking, and we're also selling the technology to our customers as well. So we're not only a services company, but we're primarily a technology and SaaS company as well. So we put the two together to grow the business.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Now, for you, when you got started, was it hard for you to start working with other people or bring them on and let go of some of the functions that weren't necessary to grow your business?
Years ago it was.
Years.
Yeah, but now as a little bit more seasoned entrepreneur, if you will, I have learned the hard lessons of learning to let go. And you really do have to hire, as you started, talent, and then trust and enable them, not just hire them, but you have to sort of let them do their jobs, because you're hiring people for what I consider to be my weaknesses. I used to use a quote, which was, I'm like Henry, it was Henry Ford's, but I'm only as smart as somebody I can call, it's different anymore. I like to change it to hire people who can fulfill my weaknesses. But that's a hard thing for an early entrepreneur to learn, because they're, I know it all.
Superman. Yeah. I mean, you're spending all this time making websites and whatever. Do you know how to actually do it? So if you're not a web designer, hire someone to do it. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So I find that is a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to. And one of the things, and tell me if you get this too, is a lot of entrepreneurs will say, well, I got burned and I'm not doing that anymore because I hired all the wrong people and they just totally sucked and I had to get rid of them. I wasted all this money. Now, you had said that you don't just hire people, you have to hire the right people and give them the tools they need to grow.
Correct. I have made those mistakes as well. But you have to learn from your mistakes. I mean, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a leader, or helping your own company to expand is also a reflective process, right? You have to look backwards and see where you made those changes and how you can look forward to resolve those changes. And a lot of it is in your team. And you want to hire people who are like you, but who are also stronger than you in their specific areas. And that's how you will continue to grow. And it's hard to let go of that trust, like I said, but there's been plenty of mistakes made. Just learn from them and move on.
Well, being in the matchmaking and finding good talent for many years, I find that some entrepreneurs will say, well, I found this guy. He sounded great on paper. He was so nice. How do you get to the real nitty gritty of finding out if this person before you is really a person that's going to be best for the position, and to really ask the right questions or dial in on paying attention to what you need to really know if they're right for the position?
A lot of it is drive. I hire for the drive within people for the specific positions. You can interview until you're blue in the face. You can do background checks. You can do reference checks. You can do all of these things, but I really ultimately, that's part of the package. But hiring to drive, and then hiring again, like I said, for depending on the position, but to like personalities, is a piece of it. And then we can train for the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
So the actual job itself, we can train to, but hiring to drive is what is how I've seen a lot of success, and you're also talking to them about their core competencies and where they see themselves, how they see themselves. And you can learn a lot about somebody in a pretty quick amount of time, but you have to ask the right questions, and then you got to listen.
Good point. Right questions and listening. Because you said hire to drive. So I'm like, you're getting behind the nice questions on the resume. Oh, so you've been this manager, and how did you manage a team? To getting deeper behind that. What is the drive behind what makes you who you are and what you do?
Yeah, you can look at a resume, and we don't do a lot of resume recruiting. In fact, we don't do any resume recruiting. We do it internally to sort of start our hiring process. But our main job in recruiting, we don't hire to resumes. We hire to your experiences and what you've accomplished. So that's a starting point. And then once you start talking to somebody, it is about drive. And we can train, again, like I said, we can train them to the position. Unless like the developers, we do train them on our technology stack, but they have to have a basic knowledge of the development skills, if you will. So it really kind of depends on the department, but it is drive. What do you want to do? How do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself tomorrow? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And that's when we're talking about growth. You want people who aren't going to be complacent, just coming to work every day and punching a keyboard, so to speak.
Yeah. You don't want people just in here, 8 hours? What do I have to do to kill these 8 hours? No.
Nope. You got to make the maximum out of those 8 hours. What do they say? 20% of the work, or 80% of the work is accomplished in 20% of the time. Mm-hmm. Right. So in an 8-hour workday, you get 80% of your work done in 20% of the day, and the rest of it can be wasted.
Yeah. Well, I never like to see that. That waste drives me nuts. And not only that, I've been in places where I'm finished what they've given me. I'm like, good, give me something else. Let me help another department. I hate being idle. Because for one, the time just stands still in my mind.
Well, and you just explained what I was saying. It's drive, right?
Yeah,
so just in that conversation right there, I see your drive. That's somebody who I would want on my team.
Yeah. And that's what you got to look for as an entrepreneur. Not just, I felt good. We had this nice chat. His mom is nice. It's like, that's great when you're having coffee, but right now you're building a business.
Exactly.
Now, how much time, let's say you hire the person, they seem to have the drive, but they aren't seeming to get a hold of what you've hired them to do. In your perspective, would you see if there's a better position for them in the company that better fits their skills, or how would you handle a situation like that?
I have plenty of stories on that. Yes. I actually had an individual come to me and want a sales job in our call center because he thought that his financial gain would be greater in sales than any other position that he's ever done. And while that may or may not have been the case, he was so bad at sales and so afraid to get on the phone. After a couple of weeks, I was like, hey, Dave, do you do anything else? Do you know anything else? And he's like, yeah, actually, I know how to program. And so actually we moved him from the sales office into our programming department, and where he grew to be one of our lead developers, and ultimately, worked out perfectly. But those decisions you have to make, that was a unique case, but you have to make those decisions as fast as possible, but you also don't want to give up on somebody, because when you're training people, that's dollars and cents to the organization. So, you want to be swift in your decisions, but you also have to allow enough time for them to sort of blossom into that.
Mm-hmm. And here's something I've found. I don't know if you found this working with your clients, is that I've been called into one particular company a long time ago where they had everyone working on the wrong things. Like they had salespeople working on spreadsheets and doing projections, and then accounting people doing some design stuff. I was like, what are y'all doing here? So it's not only a question of hiring people, but if you start to run, and this is why they're running out of resources and money. So we're going to have these salespeople doing a number of jobs so that we don't have to hire more people. But all you do is burn them out, and they're not doing their magic, which they're good at, which in this case would be the sales department, going out there and getting the cash.
Correct. So what I would do in that instance is use outsourcing. And so there's a lot of really good outsourcing companies, especially now. They're worldwide organizations where you can reach out and get a resource. It can be relatively inexpensive, and you don't have to manage it from a payroll standpoint. For example, if I have to do a big presentation, I use outsourced individuals for that. I give all the bullet points, I do the meat and potatoes of it, but I will send it to an outsourced group. And then what I get back in the morning is my presentation, ready to go, beautiful, way better than I could have built it, or my sales guy could have built it, or because they're specialized in their core competency of PowerPoints, right? So I know my business, they know theirs, so let's hire them to make the best presentation possible. So I always use outsourcing in those instances. It frees up my time
Mm-hmm.
to do what I need to do best. And the example that you gave would free up the salesperson's time to do what they do best.
Exactly. And see, this is a great option for a maybe budding entrepreneur, rather not on the market for very long, couple of years out there. I myself hired a wonderful vendor, a company to go get me outsourcing for a specific task that I need. And that way, as you say, you don't have to worry about the payroll. Wherever state you're in or country, there'll be certain laws or regulations that will, tie you up and be financially tight.
Sure.
But it's a great way if you need specific things done to hire just for that. And it's much more cost effective.
And very much more cost effective.
Yeah.
And I also, as an entrepreneur, I talk a lot about efficiencies. Because of my background as a technologist, I develop things towards efficiencies. Mm-hmm. But on the heels of this outsourcing conversation, you got to be more concerned about being effective than efficient. Mm-hmm. And an example of that is you can be super efficient because you think you're time blocking. So I'm going to time block, 2 hours to answer all my emails, right? Mm-hmm. Well, just because you block 2 hours aside to do emails doesn't mean that's the best use of your time, right? So being effective in that time is different than being efficient. So being efficient and effective is using the outsource to get all of that back. Being efficient is using a technology, for example, to help things move faster. But just because they're moving faster doesn't mean it's always smarter. And so sometimes it seems like a good idea to do more things in less time, but a lot of times it just ends up with you being busy, filling that time with activity.
Exactly.
And that's not always the best thing, especially if you want to grow. You really have to be effective and efficient, but you need to be effective.
Yeah, I like that that nuance, because I hear new entrepreneurs saying, "But I'm working 16-hour days." But are they revenue generating? Or are they building websites and doing everything you're not good at?
Correct.
And I find, I don't know if you find this as well, but a lot of new entrepreneurs, I think, are just trying to do all these things so they don't have to do the revenue generating things, because maybe they're uncomfortable, like that guy you mentioned, with just going out there and speaking to people, connecting with people, and building those relationships so you can make the business.
Yeah, and that, again, we keep hitting the nail on the head as far as new entrepreneurs, and then I was one for years. Probably I was a new entrepreneur longer than I wanted to be a new entrepreneur, I think.
Yeah.
But a lot of hard lessons. But you always want to hold on to everything and do everything because you think you know it all. And as your leadership skills evolve, and you start to pass off the important tasks and trusting others, that's when you can really effectively grow your company. You can't do it by yourself. You just can't.
No, this whole idea of by the bootstraps, there's a certain amount of, you have to put in the effort, but you can't do it alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But here's one thing. You are a pilot. We were talking before the interview, a Cirrus owner. It's awesome. I love Cirrus.
Yeah, thanks.
But what's efficient here, and this is what entrepreneurs listening in, if you're new and budding and thinking, hey, I want to get to a point where I have more time to do the things I love. Well, here's the thing. When you actually do what Kirk is talking here and grow your business to a point where you're efficient, if you have a pilot license like he does, you can get out there, get to meetings a lot more efficiently, quickly, without going through the system of commercial airliners, booking it. I mean, people don't realize how having a pilot license and being able to travel via that method actually gets you there more cost effectively than having to get on a commercial liner, and save you a lot of time.
That's true. And that's why I bought my plane new in 2005. And as a successful entrepreneur at that point in time, it was about time in traffic. Here in Southern California, you used to be able to get to, say, Santa Barbara in 2.5 hours. Now it takes 4.5 hours. There's no way to get there commercially, realistically, but being able to fly there for meetings, which is where I had a bunch of clients back in the day. It's a 45-minute flight. I still had breakfast and got my kids off to school. I was able to get there, do the meetings, and be home for dinner. So beyond time effectiveness and efficiencies, there's also work-life balance. And that my pilot's license helped me a lot more with work-life balance out when I was flying a lot for work. I haven't done it much in the last couple of years, but it did help with that when you did have dispersed meetings.
Yeah. And you now are able to give back. You're part of Angel Flight, which I don't know if everyone knows what that is, but tell them a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah. So Angel Flight's a volunteer organization where we do non-life-threatening flights where we help people. So For example, I have flown, there's a camp in Northern California every year for deaf children, and the deaf children are dispersed all over the country. And so pilots of all over the country will offer their services, their plane, their fuel, their time, and fly all these children into that camp and then back home. So there were children here in Southern California where I'd put 3 in the plane, or 2 in the plane rather. And my wife and I would fly them up to camp. And then a week later, we'd go get them and bring them home. Otherwise, they wouldn't really have the opportunity to do that, for example. Or someone may need surgeries weekly because of a cancer situation, and they can't afford to get to UCLA Medical Center because they live in Central California and they don't have the resources. So the Angel Flight pilots offer their time, services, and to help volunteer get the patients where they need to be.
Yeah, and what's great is some of these kids have gotten to enjoy the spirit of flight where they probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity. So that's totally awesome. I mean, yeah. So share also where they can find out more about Model Match and your business. How can they do that?
You can visit more on www.modelmatch.com.
Yes,
it's pretty simple.
Yeah, well, this has been a fascinating talk. I know our audience has gained a lot from your knowledge shared, and any entrepreneurs, don't do it alone. You're not meant to do it alone. Go get the help you need today, and go check out Model Match. Maybe they can be the ones to help you get that wonderful help and talent you need. So thank you so much, Kirk, for joining us.
Thank you, Christina.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.